Well, the Grand Marshal is the person who leads the parade or leads the funeral. That person is the first line with the band, leading and directing. And then the followers, those who participate, are the second line, which is where that term comes from. And I came up with a woman named Eleanor Tatum, who was one of, and probably the premier female Grand Marshal, because traditionally it's a male role. And since brass bands were prominent, it was always a male leading them. Well, Eleanor and some of the other ones, Benny Jones's sister, Miss Felicia. Benny Jones is the Tremé brass band, he and Uncle Lionel. And I would watch them in the second lines, and I would be in the second line participating. Sometimes Vernell Bonaris and I used to go to the second lines, and I would see these few ladies, not many, maybe two, max. Well, Miss Eleanor Tatum became the Queen Grand Marshal when the Jazz were the basketball team here in the city. And then we would see her leading all in the French Quarter. She was a street type musician. She'd come and sit in. And at the time, I was performing every week at Storyville, which is now Margaritaville, with David Lasty, who was the band leader that I joined the band, A Taste of New Orleans, when I came off the road with One More Time doing theater. And so Eleanor would come and sit in with us, and she would say, girl, come on in the street with us in second line. And so occasionally I would go. Well, Eleanor got Lou Gehrig's disease, and this was in the 80s. And she came to me on one of her good weeks. She said, I don't have much longer. And we were at Storyville. She said, and I want you to Grand Marshal my funeral. I said, well, Eleanor, I don't know how to be a Grand Marshal. She said, I will make sure there will be two people there who will show you what to do. And so when Eleanor died, and I read and understood, and she left with me. She came to my home and she gave me a beautiful autographed picture and some gloves, and she said, now you take this with you. And when Eleanor passed, her daughter called me and said, Mom wants you to Grand Marshal her funeral, which is really the tradition. The family usually chooses who they would like to take that person home and lead. And when she called, along next to me was Mr. Morris Jeff. And he actually was standing next to me, and I knew him from Champ Clark and WBOK, and I knew him from being a very active community leader and from Nord. And so he said, just do what I do. And then there was another Grand Marshal on the other side of me, and there were two of us, two men, and I was in the middle. And I walked with them, and of course I had watched and learned, and I bought my first suit, made my umbrella, had a bit of Eleanor with me, and it's kind of a spiritual thing, and that was my first time. And from then on, when musicians passed, I became the Grand Marshal. I'm about ready to retire from it, even though I love it tremendously, and I'd love to be able to pass the torch on to a youngster now, because I'm getting up and it's difficult sometimes doing these funerals. I feel great about it. I love going and listening to what they do with the music. I don't have a problem with them doing their whole hip-hop thing on top of the brass band thing in its place. So when I go see the Soul Rebels or the Hot Eight, I love that because it puts the contemporary modern twist on it. But in certain places, we need to maintain the tradition where the whole process is held up. And because when a person is buried, you want to send them in an elegant and the right way. And so to go against the tradition and start buck jumping before the body has even been released is disrespectful. So it's important that the respect be there in the tradition of the funeral. But otherwise, I'm great with what the young brass band, because socially it's also getting them involved in something that's positive. It's economically helping them to make a living, and it's taking them to, all over the world, so they're traveling and they're getting to see the way other people live. And so the experiences are tremendous for a young person who's playing brass band and traditional jazz music.